Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healy with DevilsDigest.com.
Joe, we're firmly in the calm before the storm period. Peach Bowl still a little ways away as of this recording. We still don't know who ASU will be playing, so it's a good time to maybe pull back a little bit, take a deep dive in just how the hell this magical run of the Sun Devils was put together.
Yeah, that Peach Bowl is still ripening a little bit for the Sun Devils. Yeah, it's a great opportunity to kind of take a step back, and it's a time of year to do that. You know, around these holidays, you reflect on things. You know, just think about the blessings that you have, the positive things in your life. If you're a Sun Devil fan, especially after the last few years, my goodness, how much of a blessing this year has been. And we have some great guests. We're going to go in depth in different levels, honestly, than we typically do, or maybe even really ever have, to see, you know, how this season was created and also how this season impacts the Sun Devil community.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit later on, we're going to talk to a couple of key Sun Devil defenders in Keith Abney and CJ Fite, get their thoughts on winning a conference title in their respective home states, as well as looking ahead to the Peach Bowl. But yeah, as you mentioned, Joe, we're going to talk to assistant head coach and special teams coordinator Charlie Ragle. Of course, Kenny Dillingham's right-hand man. They go back ways to their days at Chaparral High School as well. He's going to take us in depth in terms of how ASU's championship roster was constructed. And then finally, at the end of the show, we're going to talk to Troy Scoma of Cactus Sports, because when Kenny talks about activating the Valley, Joe, what's happened over at Cactus Sports these last few weeks, maybe month or so, is really putting into practice.
Yeah, it's something that, I mean, we experience anything that's associated with Sun Devil athletics, or really any, team, any sport, when the product on the field is performing at a very high level, everybody wins, everybody benefits. And obviously the inverse can be true as well. When things struggle, their businesses can struggle. You know, the enthusiasm overall is a lot lower. So for ASU to be at such a high point right now, that is benefiting a lot of people, even ones that are kind of adjacently involved with Sun Devil athletics. So yeah, Troy, we had a great talk with Troy as well, with Charlie Riegel. We went into some depth with Charlie there. You're going to love what you hear with us.
All right, so before we dive into all that good stuff, some news items to pass along, because while things are just getting ramped up on the practice field for the Devils, things never stop off the field. Let's start off talking about some awards. Obviously, ASU's had a great season, so that means a lot of awards coming down. Now, I think we talked about it last episode. Cam Scadaboo not invited to New York, a travesty, I think. Fifth, though, in the Heisman Trophy voting. I mean, they've taken 5 to New York before,
standard,
right?
Why is 4 the thing? 5 is a nice, even number. Well, it's an odd number, but whatever. I'm not a math guy. But, it's a good number to have the amount of people there. You don't have a $4 bill. You got a $5 bill, right?
Put scat on the $5 bill.
That's what you got to do to right this wrong.
All right, so yeah, 5th in the Heisman Trophy voting, but he had some consolation because the AEP gave him a first-team spot on their All-American team, as did the good folks at CBS Sports. The Football Writers Association of America, which I'm a member, only had Scat on the second team, so I don't know, my fellow FWAA members, what are you doing?
So I got to interject there, because before we move on to the rest, because there are a lot of words to dole out there. It's something that's interesting to me because, okay, he's a first-team All-American, is Scat, and a lot of these All-American lists at running back, they typically have 2 people, right? He was 5th in the Heisman Trophy voting, and he was 2nd among running backs, because you had Travis Hunter, the winner, and then you had 2 quarterbacks there. But for some reason, they do have an award called the Doak Walker Award that's given to the nation's best running back. How in the world was he not a finalist for that, if according to all these very reputable All-American lists and the Heisman Trophy, essentially all are saying Cam Scadaboo was the 2nd best running back in college football, behind a guy who's having the best season since a guy named Barry Sanders was playing college football. The folks of the Doak Walker Award, or at least the voters that create that award and the finalists for it, they have some major explaining to do, in my opinion.
Hell yeah, they do. And so I have votes for a number of awards. I don't have a Doak Walker. I have, Blitnikoff, Lou Gross guy, whatever. But yeah, that was. I think it's a problem of timing also, because every year we always hear the chatter about some Heisman Trophy voters getting their votes in before the conference title games, and for a guy like Scat, who finally gets a national stage, dominates Iowa State in the manner that he did. How is it not okay? The polls open after the final conference title game. for a few day period. Because I mean, there's got to be some uniformity there. I believe the Doak Walker finalist came out a few weeks ago.
That seemed like it was. I'm thinking back to when it was released. I'm like, oh, that kind of seems like an injustice. Like I remember my reaction, like, yeah, I kind of get it. These guys have good, the running back from North Carolina and Iowa, obviously with G&T as well. Like, all right, these guys have good numbers, but from then until now, it's a very different narrative. Like, that's just foolish that he's not included there.
Because for some of the awards that I did have to submit finalist ballots for, I hadn't even done that yet, and that struck me as like they're putting theirs out before like I put in like the Blitnikoff for the best receiver in the nation. So that doesn't make that you need the full body of work. And if we're including the conference title games and like one of the most prestigious and important stages in the sport, it should count.
I believe so. So we'll see. Maybe this can be a catalyst to change, but probably not. But again, Cam Scatterbo, he's the people. I got some blowback on this one, but I stand by it that Cam Scatterbo is the People's Heisman Award winner. All credit and respect to Cignetti over at Indiana, but I believe Kenny Dillingham is the People's Coach of the Year. ASU is the People's Team, despite whether or not they have that individual hardware to prove it.
All right, so a couple others. Jordan Tyson, a third-team All-American by, I believe, the AP as well. The folks at Walter Camp gave Leif Fatano, ASU's outstanding center, a third-team All-American selection spot.
Those are great to see. I mean, the run that Jordan Tyson went on, I mean, it's incredible because the first, I'd have to go back and see when things really hit a stride for JT. I mean, he had a good start to the season, but the way that he ended in the final month or so was up there with the absolute best of them. Enough, obviously, to get him over 1,000 yards on the season, over 10, double-digit touchdown receptions, a first-team All-Big 12 pick. So for him to have that All-America honor, that's incredible stuff, and just certainly keeping your fingers crossed that a guy like him decides to return to Arizona State. Though all the signs point toward that, assuming to be the case, but. Great to see that sort of accolade, being given to a guy who certainly earned it.
All right. So before we dive into some personnel news, and of course that includes the ongoing open transfer portal, a Tempe institution, one of the few, another one bites the dust. Unfortunately, it just seems to be the downside of civilization, Tempe's resurgence or whatever. But for all the new shiny buildings that are popping up across the city. Tempe, elsewhere, some history is lost in the process.
Yeah, real sad stuff. Saw earlier, late Tuesday afternoon, saw a Facebook post by the popular bar Devil's Advocate that they are going to be closing their doors before the end of the calendar year. I believe they said December 28th is the last day of business. And obviously that is even before ASU will play its playoff game on New Year's Day. A lot of folks probably around Brad and my, age range maybe remember it more as Maloney's as it was. But the inside of it, even under a different name for the last 15 years or so, is pretty much a carbon copy for the most part of what you saw. So even walking in there, even if the name isn't necessarily what you associate with your memories of the place, you walk in, man, it takes you back for sure. And I know a lot of folks have a lot of great memories, and it is a sad thing. We saw that with the Vine a couple years ago shutting down, which was an absolute institution. You go back a ways to places like McDuffie's, obviously Rulabula. Y'all know that I was involved in that industry for a hot minute, and that was something that came and went. So it's a tough business to stay in, and for those who have stayed, I know that I can only wonder, what's going on, but they operate on some very valuable real estate, that is for sure. So we'll see what becomes of it, but it is a sad thing. I know that with each passing day, it's a longer and longer ago span of time that we graduated from college and attended college.
Time's undefeated.
Yeah. So you look back and think, man, like there are so few places that really still exist. Casey Moore's carrying the torch at this point, I think.
If they come for the Chuck box, there's going to be blood. Yeah. I will fight. Anybody I need to.
There you go. And our good friends at Cactus Sports, like that I think it's the new ASU holy trinity of Casey Moore's Cactus Sports and Chuck Box as well there. So yeah, sad to see that place go. I had a lot of great memories there myself, and it's wild that this news comes together again. But I've lived that life, and I know how it goes. You don't really have a lot of heads up to work with in some cases. So yeah, we're looking at less than 2 weeks before that place closes, and that is a shame. All
right. So before we dive into the portal, one personnel note to pass along. So seems all indications are at this point. Jeff Sims, the ASU quarterback, made the one start in Sam Levitt's absence at Cincinnati, the veteran of the college game. Looks like he's going to take the red shirt this year, of course, just playing a couple times this year, and return to the Sun Devils, a veteran backup, because that backup quarterback was kind of like heading into this offseason was kind of like the sneaky important thing, because you have a young quarterback entrenched as a starter, making that obviously perhaps ASU not a very attractive destination for any kind of portal guys. You have a couple of new quarterbacks in this signing class from the high school ranks, but you don't necessarily, for a team that's got national title hopes for next year, want to go into the true freshman. So this, I think, is a sneaky, under the radar, very important development.
Yeah, because you lose Trent Bourget to graduation, and Sims. I remember when he came here, I was looking back at his season at Nebraska in 2023 and looking at he played in 5 games. And he hadn't redshirted before. And you're like, man, how do you do a guy like that? Play 5 games, get just one fewer. So obviously the formula worked out this year for him to, be able to play in a few games, start one, and maintain that red shirt. And that's just an important presence to have. And don't think that it's not important, because if you have a guy like that can go out and just be a figure in the locker room, figure on the practice field in terms of the experience that he has, maybe help with Sam Levitt's development, and be there as far as just being able to be inserted into games if necessary. Going back to that Cincinnati game, obviously ASU lost that game, but I don't think it was necessarily his fault, so to speak. He didn't win. I think when we were talking about it at that point, didn't win it, didn't lose it, kind of thing. So to your point, if he were to move on, or if he were out of eligibility, then you lose your quarterback 2, quarterback 3, and then you got to scramble and find somebody in the transfer portal, which is kind of tough because, what's your selling point? You say, we got this guy who's a redshirt sophomore who just took us to the college football playoff. You're not going to have a chance to beat him out, but we want you here anyway. That may be a tough pitch to bring in a quarterback that can bring something to the table. So to be able to have, a Sims back in the fold, that's kind of a low-key important thing.
All right, so let's talk transfer portal. We'll start with maybe an update on the outgoing guys, but perhaps there's an asterisk for a couple of these guys that they're eventually going to be outgoing, because a tight end, Marquiston Douglas, even though he's already committed to Florida State, and I believe the official Florida State account has said welcome back, and they tweet out a nice graphic. Biscuits coming back to Tally. He's still practicing with the team on Monday, as is safety Kamari Wilson. As we talked about, those are the 2 guys that are in the portal right now that are in that 2 deep. Not starters, but still guys that do see some playing time there as well. Some names that since our last episode that have jumped in there. Some depth guys, and defensive tackle Kyron Borda, working his way back from a knee injury, hasn't really factored in on that D-line. Young linebacker in Kavion Thunderbird. He has jumped in as well, had a sack this year, but linebacker is a spot that there's some good depth there. Edge Miles Amy, who is a walk-on. And then 2 as of that came down the pipe today. Defensive back Cole Martin, the former Basha standout, 4-star product, went up to Oregon, transferred here to ASU. Unfortunately, has missed the entire season due to injury. It looks like he's going to be heading to Westwood, because his dad just got hired there onto the Bruins staff. So understandable there. I'm kind of unfortunate, though, because a very talented player who never really got to suit out in the maroon and gold.
Yeah, it kind of is what it is, and this the ebb and flow of things. And if you look at the list, and I know there another name to add here too, but if you look at the list so far, and the 2 names that stand out the most, of course, being Martin and LT Welch, there's a legitimate reason for both of them. Of course, Welch had a disciplinary issue, just it was non-negotiable there. Cole Martin, in all likelihood, falling to play for his father. I believe he did at Oregon as well.
Yeah.
So those are things that just kind of make sense. And so if you take those out of the equation, I'm not making excuses here, but if you take those 2 out of the equation, you are really dealing with guys that just weren't really seeing the field too terribly much.
And then the most recent was another Cole Marzalek, ASU's long snapper. He's a Valley guy, played at Millennium High School. He is going to be jumping into the portal with 3 seasons left. Tyler Wigglesworth was, I believe, an NAU transfer who was the backup at that spot. We'll see at practice on Wednesday if Marzalek is still there, and if he's just like many other guys, like Miles Amy as well, that are going to be staying with the team through the playoff run.
Yeah. And of course, Amy, we didn't mention it. If you don't know, he is the son of Vince Amy, of course, the former defensive line coach, Sun Devil letter winner during the Rose Bowl season, still with the staff now. Again, just someone that in all likelihood is looking for a greater opportunity to play. So, as of now, they're, kind of knocking wood, so to speak. Just no real names that stand out at you as far as like the high caliber starters or those high potential underclassmen, the names of the past, the Elijah Badgers of the world or the Rashadas of the world so far. Now, obviously, there's still a little bit of time. The 28th, is that the date
that is, but also there is, of course, for teams that are in the playoff, there is a 5-day window after their playoff run comes to an end where those players could jump into the portal as well. So maybe some, I don't know, I wouldn't say white knuckle moments because I think, the core of this team is pretty locked in. But you can't discount the fact of a guy or two, like a Cole Martin, if you will, kind of, be jumping in the portal and seeking their fortunes elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you figure there are going to be surprises. Like each year you kind of enter this process knowing, you know what, you're probably going to have your heart broken a little bit, but you're also going to probably get some benefits in return. Okay, so the transfer portal window and devil's advocate coming to a close on the same day, though the transfer portal will give a little bit of a window in addition as well.
All right, maybe does that mean the cool bar from elsewhere can portal in? Eskimo Joe's coming from Stillwater, opening up a Tempe location.
There, you know what? We can stretch this transfer portal into, commerce and life in general. Okay, I think we are on to something here. That might be a good idea.
All right, let's talk on a more positive note. Guys that are coming to Tempe to play for the Devils in 2025. Starting off, of course, ASU had a recruiting weekend in which they hosted a few guys and landed a couple commitments as a result. Now, kicker has been a need for this team, and we'll talk to the Charlie Ragle, the special teams coordinator, a little bit later on about this. But Jesus Gomez, a name that ASU fans might remember from the 2022 game against Eastern Michigan. He hit all three of his field goals in that game as part of the 9-point Eastern Michigan victory.
Oh, that did not connect with me until right now. That is those points that he scored were the margin of victory.
Yeah, so he went on over the last couple of years to become an all-MAC kicker. Nailed 20 of 25 attempts this year with a long of 57. And he's a lefty kicker, born in Mexico as well. And how he's going to be returning to Arizona State, the scene of where his kicks perhaps ushered in the end of the Herm Edwards tenure in Tempe. So full circle moment. Jesus Gomez is coming to Tempe to battle for the starting kicker job.
So between being a highly qualified place kicker and being a large catalyst in Herm Edwards' exit from Tempe, I don't know. I think he should be welcomed in with like a parade down University or something like that. You look at the numbers on Gomez, multiple made kicks beyond or at 55 yards. I think as long as 57 if I saw correctly. I believe he was second team All-MAC. Who in the world would have been first team? I know that I glanced at the numbers the other day, and among kickers in the nation with at least 25 attempts, which is exactly how many he had, correct? I think he's in the top 5 in accuracy. He made it 80%, 20 out of 25. I know that math. So you've got some accuracy there. You've got a big leg there. To me, this is an absolute home run acquisition for ASU. This is a proven commodity. I think he has 1 year left, if I'm not mistaken. So this is not, and I don't say this as a slight to any, players present or past with ASU under Kenny Dillingham, but I know that folks have kind of, fans have kind of issued their disdain for going too much on the Arizona local high school player route in terms of the transfer portal. Obviously, this is not that path. This is someone that is a decorated kicker. Like this, to me, again, this is absolutely massive in my opinion.
And he doesn't have to kick in like the MAC footprint weather conditions.
There you go. And then
at elevation here in Arizona.
Another discussion topics for another day with these like roster expansion things, and does he focus on one particular thing? Does that help? That's something for a different time. But yeah, you'll hear from Charlie Ragle, who will be essentially his coordinator here, a special teams coordinator. He's going to talk a bit about Gomez. So, again, he's one of the two. We'll break into the second here in a moment. Transfer portal acquisitions ASU has had so far, but You ask just about anybody. Place kicker was the number one biggest need. I mean, in a season that's had just a lot of elation and joy, that has been the position group that has had the most controversy and complaints. And if you ask me, ASU knocked it out of the park and did an A+ in filling that spot.
All right, so ASU's second commit as of recording, because of course these things move quickly. Wide receiver Noble Johnson coming over from Clemson. So you wonder maybe, in addition to the skill set, if ASU draws a certain opponent in the Peach Bowl, maybe he's got some inside intel. I don't know. We'll talk about that perhaps next week. 6'2", 210-pounder from Texas. Took a red shirt in 23. Last season caught 3 passes for 16 yards, but a very talented young man. Also, of course, continuing the Texas to Tempe pipeline.
Yeah, there you go. I guess it'd be a trade-off if he comes here, because Paul Tyson is still on the Clemson roster.
Yeah,
if you notice,
named later.
Yeah, our buddy Jordy Ham noted that because I posted a screenshot, because no matter who ASU plays in the Peach Bowl, it'll be against a team that has a former Sun Devil. Jermaine Lole still playing college football. He's on Texas. Paul Tyson, if you remember the quarterback that came from Alabama, he's on Clemson now. On Clemson's website, his bio, it says like student coach / quarterback.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know that I've ever seen that.
We can pull this up in real time here, because we need to get the genuine reaction.
Dabo getting a little creative there.
Yeah.
Well, that could be interesting, because of course ASU will face the winner of Texas.
I'm showing Brett on the spot here.
Student coach. Oh man.
Student coach / QB, not QB / student coach. Yeah. I mean, if I were to hold this to the screen, y'all can't see it. Look up Paul Tyson, and you're probably going to get a lot of hits on Google from Jake, whichever Paul it was fought Mike Tyson. But yeah. Anywho, getting out of control here. That's what we were talking about. So going back to Noble Johnson, the transfer portal commit. So that's, that falls under like a different category. A guy like Gomez, he's a proven commodity, has done it at the collegiate level, taken a step up from the MAC to the Big 12. Johnson is someone who was, I believe, a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, limited contributions at Clemson, but that's still a big time program. So, you're getting a guy that's a little bit younger, who had those accolades, comes from Texas. So he's kind of got the framework, that you like, just maybe hasn't had the opportunity quite yet. So we'll see how things go on. I'm sure wide receiver is going to be a position group that ASU probably hits a couple times in the transfer portal. We'll see if this is someone that's maybe etched for maybe kind of the long game versus the short game. We'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, so definitely we'll see who the Sun Devils also bring in, because they're certainly not done. There should be another not necessarily as robust as the last couple of portal cycles. When it's kind of the champagne problems now. Like, you have a championship caliber team now. It's like you're fine tuning, you're polishing areas rather than just kind of completely overhauling the whole roster.
These 30, 40 plus situation that those days I would certainly hope are gone. It sounds like just Hode Rubino and others who kind of forecast some of this stuff. It sounds like, I don't know, the 10 to 15 range, something like that. We'll see. Obviously, a lot of that's going to be contingent on who leaves, and just how many bodies need to be replaced there. But yeah, they can be picky. As you will hear from Charlie Ragle, it's just a different narrative in terms of how receptive players across the country are to possibly transferring to Arizona State. There are some big names. ASU's swinging for the fences. You got some guys that are either former 5-star recruits that are transferring, or players, the running back from Army is in the equation now. Is a 1,000+ yard guy and has a lot of high caliber offers as a transfer. So, ASU is in a position where it doesn't necessarily have to just go for guys. Hey, you played your ball in high school ball in Arizona. You're an Arizona native and you're looking for a new home. Okay, come home. That may be the case, but it's not necessarily that is the direct target. You can really be picky and compete against some of the big dogs, because of what ASU's done on the field this year.
All right, so before we dive into that very in-depth and very informative conversation with assistant head coach and special teams coordinator Charlie Ragle, let's talk to a couple of Sun Devil defenders. And before we do that, let's talk about the good folks at the good brand, homefieldapparel.com. You might, by the time you're listening to this, you might be cutting a little bit close to get your order before Christmas. I don't know. They're very great. They're very good over there, and speedy. But no matter what time of year it is, great time for ASU apparel. They have an amazing collection of Sun Devil items, shirts, hats, coaches' jackets, some jerseys, hoodies, joggers, you name it, they got it at homefieldapparel.com. And best of all, your first order is 15% off with our unique offer code SUN24, SUN24 at checkout at homefieldapparel.com.
So I'm gonna add in there. Ooh. In the Healy family, we are not too proud or too bougie to give a gift of a printed piece of paper with the picture of a piece of merchandise that says, this is going to be coming your way. It's just not here yet, but it's coming your way. So you know what? If you need to get those orders in at home field, and if it's not going to get there by the 25th, I'm sure the folks in your life will understand. They'll be just happy with your generosity to give them a lovely gift.
Absolutely. So no matter when it arrives, Home Field Apparel should be added to your or your loved one's collections. All right, let's talk some football. Let's start things off with cornerback Keith Abney. All right, so how does prepping for a playoff game, how's that kind of feel?
It's good, just, taking it all in. It's fun being out here, just playing meaningful games in December. So it's good, learning experiences. We're going to, watch the game. Everybody probably going to meet up somewhere and watch the games on Saturday and then find out who we play and get the game plan from there.
How long did you guys kind of allow yourself to, enjoy the, winning a conference championship before, kind of turning the page of we still got work to do?
Really, I want to say 24 hours for real. Just after they announced the playoff bracket, then it was okay, now we finna see. We know who we could potentially play, so we just, I've been watching UT and Clemson, just, seeing what they have, just a little things. And then, it's cool, though. It's just a great experience, and we happy to be here.
How cool was it just to go back to your home state, win a conference title, but also have a pick for yourself?
Oh, yeah. It was it was good. It's crazy. I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to catch a pick once we come back to AT&T. And then, I had a lot of family and friends there, so it was good. It was like a gift to them for coming to the game.
How was it being home for a little bit after that, too? You guys conference champions and then having the chance to kind of go home, recharge, and then get ready for the stretch.
Yeah,
was it for you?
Yeah, it was good just going home, seeing – I actually surprised my family. I didn't tell them I was coming. I just showed up. And then, they was happy to see me. It was just cool, a good feeling going home, seeing my family, going out to eat, just catching up with, old friends and old family members that I haven't seen in a long time. So
how difficult is it to maybe stay a little bit grounded in these moments, right? I mean, you just, like you mentioned, got a huge pick in a conference championship game in front of all your family and friends, and then now you're going back home, have a CFP on your hands. How do you stay grounded with that time and everything going on?
Just staying, just keep doing what I've been doing. Just, don't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows. Just, just keep working, remember what got you to this point. So we just got to, continue to come to work every day, and I feel like, everything will pay out.
How does it feel not quite knowing exactly you're going to play? You said you mentioned watching film on both units, but what's the preparation like for you and the unit with this week, staying conditioned and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, this week really just, keep, get our bodies moving, clean up little things like technique, just all the little things. That's what we're going to be focused on this week. A lot of technique and, little small details that we can fix up. And then next week we'll hit the ground rolling with the game plan.
Yeah, when you mentioned that you were watching a little bit of your potential opponents, anything kind of jump out to you early on and kind of the very early scouting?
Yeah, they, good players, of course, not everybody that we're going to be playing, potential NFL guys. So, it's going to be a great opportunity to play at this level and at this stage with everybody watching.
What do you make of the team so far and kind of your group and the way that everybody's kind of come back from this break? Coach mentioned you guys have been really early to meetings yesterday, and everybody seems very excited and the energy level is really high. And how do you feel about the group right now and how the energy and vibe is?
It's definitely good vibes. I feel like this team is always good vibes because I feel like we're a real family. We're all close. We all have real tight bonds on and off the field. So it's like when you have good bonds with people off the field, it's just easy to come and doing what we love. So it's great vibes here for sure.
And with so much going on with obviously you guys having so much left to play for, but the transfer portal opening up, a couple guys maybe sprinkling in, maybe a couple sprinkling out as well. How does that feel for you guys as teammates, some of these guys, and does that become a distraction in any capacity?
I mean, it can be, but I just look at it we started something, we got to, finish the season. Majority of the guys, there's some people that, just still going to finish the season off here. So, we just got to finish that, and then once that's over with, now we're looking into the transfer portal, all that. But right now, we all teammates, we all families.
What does that say to you about some of those guys, like Marquise and or Kamara, that even though they're ultimately going to play somewhere else, they want to stay with this program and continue the ride with you guys?
It says a lot. Just just those guys, just finishing what they started here. We started the season, so why not finish it?
So looking ahead to the next couple weeks in the preparation, what do you think are going to be the biggest keys to get you guys ready for New Year's Day?
Just at this stage, I feel like the team that makes the less mistakes will come out on top. So we're just gonna try to not make as many mistakes and just try to play as clean as football as possible.
After having big wins in the last couple of games you played, you coaches mentioned some scouting. How is that going back and maybe like rewatching some film from those games and trying to find areas you can improve on when you're winning games by multiple touchdowns, scoring a lot of points, and also getting a lot of stops too?
Yeah, I feel like our coaches, they do a great job. Just we've been on a good win streak here. Just cleaning up the little things, like even the Arizona game. Just we beat them by a lot, but it's always something that you can get better at. You can't never improve too much. So we just always looking to improve and try to clean up small details. So I feel like we all have a great self-realization of what we need to improve on, and that's what we'll be working on today and this week.
So obviously this week, is a little maybe the younger guys and more the depth chart guys getting some more chances and some time. Who are some of the younger corners that really kind of maybe caught your eye, or maybe over the course of the season you've seen some really good strides and progress?
Well, Rodney really he young, but we don't consider him young because he getting great reps in the games. But you got Tony, you got Plaz Johnson, you got Chris Johnson, you got Nico, all the young guys. Just they coming to work every day. Shout out to them, and they trying to get better every day and learn from us and learn from the coaches.
With potentially having Shamari sidelined for the first half of the game, what does that speak on for you guys? I know it's plenty of time before you guys start prepping for that, but mentally being able to, like you mentioned, having a bunch of young guys that have been playing really good, and for you maybe taking like an extra step up in those situations where you might not have a guy that you really rely on during the season.
Yeah, so it's just going to be like the next man up mentality. Like, hopefully, I don't know what the appeal situation was, trying to get that appeal, but, if it doesn't happen, we just got to have the next man up, and, I feel like they'll step up and fill the holes, whoever is playing that position.
That's a tough break about Shamari, though.
Oh, yeah, man. It sucks, man. Just, being that late in the game and just knowing that I don't think it was targeted, but the refs, I guess they thought otherwise, but just knowing that he's going to have to sit out this first half potentially it's tough, but next man up.
Situations like this, though, how much confidence I'm assuming you guys are all flying across the entire group in terms of just feeling ready to go for any situation that might come at this point in the season.
Yeah, just all just playing fast, playing confident, and then I feel like we have a lot of confidence in the guys in our room that may not have the time to shine early in the season, but this is their chance, and I feel like they'll step up to the plate.
Do you have any excitement of playing in another NFL stadium, getting to play Mercedes-Benz this time?
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. Just it's kind of like like we're on tour right now. We're just traveling. We like traveling right now, just playing at different stadiums. So it's gonna be amazing, good environment. And yeah, it's gonna be great.
Playing Texas, the possibility of playing Texas, your home state team, what would that be like?
It's gonna be cool. I have a lot of friends on that team, a lot of people from back home that I know on that team. So it's gonna be cool just get to match up against them like the old days.
Yeah. Has it hit you yet, that your Arizona State team is practicing in mid-December, about ready to play in the college football playoff?
It hit me the day after when we came up to do the college football, like when they were doing the seeding and stuff, it hit me. I got a little emotional, man. It did hit me, I ain't gonna lie. So it's great. I'm just happy. I'm happy that we're in this position, that all our hard work that we put in is starting to pay off, and we're gonna keep going.
How was this team able to flip the script so dramatically from a year ago?
Just coming in and just trusting the process, working every day, coming in, doing the workouts hard. Hard days, long days, just coming in, working. And then I feel like this team, we do a lot of things outside of what our coaches do for us. We got guys, standing up here, at night watching film. You got guys cold tub, getting recovery. Like, people, like, this team cares. Like, we really care about this, and we just trust in the process. We just bought into what Coach Dillon has been preaching to us all year, and it's starting to pay off.
How much has the chip on the shoulder mentality, the respect factor, fueled the team's fire this year?
I feel like it has a lot. We've been disrespected a lot, and we're still disrespected all the work that we've showed. But I feel like it's a great thing. We get to come out here and just prove people wrong, just beat the odds.
Keith, apologize if this has already been asked, but with the dismissal of LT and then the departure of Keontae, what is the conversation that's been around you guys' increased need for reps or anything of that nature?
It's just like this, the next man up, just getting younger guys ready, like Rodney getting reps last game, Plaz, Tony, Nico, Chris Johnson, all those kids just getting reps. Like next man up mentality. It sucks, yeah. We wish they were still here, but things happen, and we just got to move on from that situation. Next man up.
What's your conversation been like with Rodney as well as with Coach Carrington trying to get him ready for this step he might take?
Just telling him that like he's meant to be here, like giving him confidence in his game because he's a good kid. And I was kind of in his position last year. Just one thing happened and I'm playing 20 to 30 snaps a game. So just telling Rodney just stay ready, just stay in the playbook like he's been doing all year. He comes to work every day, even earlier in the season when he wasn't getting as many reps. He's treating it like he's playing on Saturday. So I feel like Rodney's gonna be ready.
So practicing for a playoff game, I mean, just in the grand scheme, how does that feel?
It feels great. I mean, I've never been in a position like this, like playing this long. I've never played football for this long, so it feels great. Just to play with this team, these group of men, just our teammates and our coaches. Just be able to do this and knowing how much work we put in, it's fun.
So in that second half against Iowa State, at what point did you realize like, hey, we're about to do this thing?
I mean, I think we figured it out at the beginning. We knew at the beginning, like as long as we just kept doing what we're doing, like they weren't gonna be able to just like stay with it. Like a lot of people, you just gotta start off strong and just be physical in the beginning, and then some people hang, some people can't. So no knock to them, but I mean we were just more physical team at the end. So just keeping that up, going to the second half is big.
Was it a little extra special for you and maybe some of those other Texans that to make such a historic win in your home state?
Oh, without a doubt. Just to be in the state and then have the family with us, just playing the game we love, play with the game we've been playing, just at one of the highest levels that you can. It's fun. It's just not many people get the opportunity, so we're blessed for sure.
Now you committed to this school at a time when the program was in pretty rough shape, and last year had its ups and downs. But to see the progress that the Sun Devil football program has made in your time, and you've been obviously a big part of it. What do you think have been some of the key factors in that resurgence?
Just our players buying in, the leaders buying in, the players buying in, the players listening to the certain leaders. Just even the players that don't have the leadership role still leading. So it all just comes down to the players leading and following what the coaches put in store and lay out, and it's just buying into it. So that's the biggest thing. All the players buying in and just sticking to the process and believing.
How have you seen your role in that leadership capacity? Be a key part of that team culture taking the whole.
Say it again.
How have you seen that kind of your role as a team leader? Kind of play a key role in having that culture take a hold.
I don't know. I just come in, just try to do what I need to every day. I just want to continue to become a better leader, but I don't try to think about what I'm doing and I'm doing this. So I don't try to think about myself too much and how I'm affecting the team. I just want to do the best I can, come to work every day, just making sure I know I have that leadership role. So just not forgetting about that when I go about my work every day. So keeping that in the back of my head while I'm working, just know people are watching. So just sticking to the process and working as hard as I can every day.
So of course, the team game, you guys are team first mentality, but also some individual accolades in terms of some all conference honors. What did it mean to you to just kind of get that individual recognition as part of a overall team success?
I mean, it comes when you win. It comes when the players around you are great. So, I mean, I know all the D linemen were saying congratulations. I was appreciate it, but this is for all of us. One team, we all lead. So just continue to do what we do. Everybody plays together, and then the individual awards will come. But the big thing is holding the trophy at the end. So I was happy for a second. Obviously, I mean, not people get the opportunity, not people get it. So obviously, I know I'm blessed and I appreciate it, but there's bigger things to get done.
So speaking of those bigger things to get done, obviously you don't know the opponent as of yet. So how are you guys kind of approaching this kind of in between period where you just don't know what who's up next?
We're just sticking to the fundamentals, sticking to the process, just going back to day one stuff, making sure we're finding the details, make sure we tune up what we need to, and then when it's time to get the game, we can game prep. Then we'll figure out who we play. Then we start going into the game plan and stuff like that. But right now, it's just focus on us this week, make sure we do what we need to do.
Yeah, Kenny mentioned kind of the self scout is kind of treating this kind of almost kind of like a bye week a little bit. From that self scout, kind of that looking back on the performance of the team itself, what are some of the things you're able to kind of take away in that self scouting process?
I mean, we play hard. Obviously, we run that from the get-go. So it's really just making sure we keep our bodies right. It's not many people have their bodies right at this point. So if you're available, you have more of a step on the opponent. So obviously, having the week off and not having to play, it's I mean, it's going to be good for our body. So we just got to use to our advantage. Make sure we're still self-scouting, make sure we're learning what we need to, fixing what we need to, just keeping our bodies right at the same time, just to have an advantage on the opponent.
All right, so we have to go real deep into why Arizona State was able to turn around that roster so quick, and no better man to be talking about that and give his perspective on the remarkable job being done in Tempe than assistant head coach and special teams coordinator Charlie Ragle, of course, also former Moon Valley assistant coach as well. Always got to bring that point up. Charlie, thanks for coming on the show. How are you tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's always go Firebirds and go Rockets.
And see, the thing is, so Brad's a Moon Valley alum. My girlfriend is a Moon Valley alum. So, you know, I'm a Dobson guy myself, but you know, it's all in the family here.
There we go. See?
Now, Coach, before we get in the X's and O's of this roster development, let's just talk about this season, man. What has this ride been like? I mean, you've obviously been around the state of Arizona for a very long time, coaching in a lot of different capacities. This is an absolutely magical season y'all have put together, one of the absolute best in program history. Just what have these past few months been like? I think just a week or so ago, we hit the 100-day mark from the start of the season.
Yeah,
100 days.
It's surreal. I mean, it's one of those deals like, and you'll appreciate this, you know, I mean, I've been coming out here since the late 70s, early 80s, right? And moved out here in 99 full time. And you know, not a whole lot of people know this, but like I would drive down to Sun Devil Stadium and by myself, maybe I'd have a buddy, maybe I wouldn't, maybe I'd have my brother, maybe I wouldn't, or one of my brothers. And I'd go to the Chuck Box and I'd scalp a ticket and I'd roll in. I didn't even call, you know, I didn't really even know how the process worked. And the first couple of years, and I would just go buy a ticket and watch the game because as a kid, I was a Sun Devil fan. You know, my mom's from Mesa. You know, it just, I love the maroon and gold. I grew up with Washington Commanders, Redskins back then, you know, like I love the burgundy. I love the maroon, you know what I mean? And it just, I was attracted to that. I became a Devil fan. And I grew up, though, in my early 20s listening to your dad. That's how I equate Sun Devil football, you know? And so to come and be the GA here and then come back and work here, like all of that to get to where the question that you asked me, I know that's a little bit long-winded, but for me, there's so much nostalgia there. And to sit in my office with Kenny a few days ago and look at each other and go like, dude, what are we doing? Like, are you kidding me? And it doesn't seem real right now. I had somebody tell me the other day, like, do you realize you guys are the best story since probably the 96 Sun Devils? And I'm like, man, like that one hit home with me. Like that, because I came out here, I was playing college football at Eastern New Mexico. I came out here like I did every holidays. My uncle was on, my cousins were on the Fiesta Bowl committee. I went to the Fiesta Bowl that day. But that night, New Year's Eve, before the Devils played in the Rose Bowl, I went out in Tempe, and the fever was at an all-time high. And in my mind, to think that we are in a correlation with that is just it's surreal. It's magical, as you said, and I'm just blessed to be a part of it.
All right, so let's go back to the start of this whole process that's led to this magical season. So, of course, you know, late 2022. You know, you and Kenny are taking over in Tempe. What was the kind of the, you know, how your process to evaluate the state of the roster that you took over and inherited? And, you know, what kind of jumped out as the most pressing action items at that time?
Whoa. Like it was drinking out of a fire hose. And I think initially, you know, he's coming in and he has these ideas and, you know, and that's the one thing I always give him credit for is he's an out-of-the-box thinker. And, you know, you have so many ideas and you see things a certain way. And then when you get here, you see the reality of it and you're like, oh, that's not how I saw it. And so, and this is what I told him. I said, listen, we get here and all of a sudden, like basically the roster that we have is the, you know, that's who we've got. Now we're going to go out and try and fill what we can in 22, you know, 23, the spring, you know, winter going into January. We're going to try and fill it the best we can. But the majority of our team, even though we brought a bunch of guys in, there's still over half of them that are here and have been used to the way things have been prior to us getting here. So in that year one, it's a lot of acclimatization to the team that you have. You're trying to, do the best you can, fill pieces, and bring a cohesive unit together so that we can go out and put our very best foot forward. After year one, it's like, okay, we slowly start to matriculate to what we want to be, his vision, his goals, his objectives. And at the end of the season, we know at that point who wants to be with us, who is not interested in being with us and is going to move on. And so they do that. And then it's now, okay, the guys that stay know they want to be a part of this. We know who they are. There's no having to guess what they are or what they can be. We know who they are. We've been with them for a year. Now we're going to bring guys in, and they have to acclimate to us, our culture, our values, our beliefs. And that's when you start to see the change.
So as you mentioned, sometimes when you come in, you identify some players that perhaps maybe aren't the best fit for the program, or they have designs to maybe get another chance elsewhere. When you identify a player in that capacity, what is the conversation in the process like from the coaching side of things?
Well, I think first it's not just an identification. It's a process, right? Like it is an identification, but it's over a period of time, right? How they play, how they practice, how they do the little things, going to class, just all of the above. And sometimes it's not that they did those things bad. It's just maybe they're not a fit for what we want, or we're not a fit for what they want. It's not always about on the student athlete, right? Sometimes our personalities and our vision of what we want is not a fit for a young man. That doesn't make him bad. That doesn't make him not a good player. It's just this isn't the fit for him. And it would be like coming on an official visit and saying, okay, yeah, hey, you guys, I see where you're going, but this is not what I want to be a part of. I've got another avenue I want to approach. So it's, over a culmination of time, identifying that, and then eventually having a conversation just like that. Hey, it's not personal. Let's see where we can help you go. Whether it's on our end or your end, you don't want to be here. But let's make sure that we send you out of here on good terms, the best we can, and that you land on your feet. And then we both move forward trying to achieve our goals.
Kenny has often said that, the healthy cultures are coach fed, but player led. And really, I think this season has been kind of a testament to the culture kind of really truly taking root in Tempe and kind of the tangible results on the field. So how did you, Kenny, and the rest of the staff kind of determine, when you took over, what you wanted the culture of Sun Devil football to be, and then kind of the process of feeding it to the players so ultimately they could take the baton?
Well, I think that he's laid that out pretty clear from the onset of when he got here. And I think the one thing is just when you go around and you spend time with our staff, I think that you come in there in the building and you sit down, it's genuine people. And I think at the end of the day, our number one goal was to find, obviously good players. We all want good players, but I think at the end of the day, we wanted good people, from the staff to the support staff to the players, that we wanted good people that had the right values and believed in what we were trying to achieve. And if we got that, which that was our number one goal, and then we sprinkled in some talent, which started it obviously does at quarterback. And then obviously you got to talk about a scat and we could go down the line, right, of multiple players, but they had to care. And I think Kenny said it a lot. We want guys that want to be here. Because I think a lot of times there's been people that come to ASU, they see it for what it can be, and then they come and they're like, oh, maybe it's too hard, or maybe it's too much, it's this or it's that, but it's a short stint and I'm out. And we wanted guys that wanted to be here for the long haul, because we've got a lot of guys in the building that our roots are vested here. And I think that combination really got us going on the right foot.
So that culture aspect is really compelling to me, with college football, college sports being more of a business now than they ever have been, with, just a lot of self-serving ideologies, across the game. How is it that culture how is it that culture is working right now? How is it that a team that didn't have great success on the field up until this season, and that, NIL, there are other schools that have more success in that area. How is it that Arizona State has been able to put this culture together and get in the college football playoff this year?
Yeah. I think it's some of the things that we're talking about. I think we hit on the right people. And let's be honest. I think, and I said this to him, and I say this, the mics are turned off, the computer's turned off. I said this to my wife. He's done an absolutely amazing job. I have a buddy that's an AD in the country. And he called me and he said, "Hey man, your guy," this is after Utah, "man, what a home run." And he's like, he's out there, bouncing around with the young people and the fans. And some people say like, "Oh man, that's corny." Some people love it. But you know what my guy said, and this is his vision, and this is like, man, next level. He's like, that's the future of Sun Devil football. Those are the donors, man. In 10 years, 5 years, those are guys that own companies and do different things. He's been able to connect to a certain caveat of people that we haven't tapped into at ASU football in eons. And I just thought that was interesting. And so I say that to say this, like, the kids are in that, the players are in that same realm of where he's at, not necessarily, but closer in age than they are with some of myself and some of the other guys on the staff. And there's times I look at things and I'm like, I don't know if we should do it like that. Not obviously. And that's our jobs as assistant coaches, to try and help him make the most critical decisions and make him be his best. But his connection to those guys is authentic. It's with some youthful bliss, and he knows at the end of the day, or they know, I should say, that he really cares about them. And then I'm going to tell you this, there's a pinch of luck involved too, because you can't bring in 40 plus players, hit on the majority of those guys, and not be a little bit lucky, right? Like, there's some luck involved. There's a lot of work on our part. I think we have a really good staff that evaluates players at an extremely high level. I think all of those things combined have put us in a position of where we sit today.
So talking about that authenticity, and you mentioned a moment ago about, helping players find a new home if maybe ASU isn't the right fit for them, or vice versa. We see that on social media, and it's very authentic from Kenny, from the staff. If someone from the program chooses to transfer, they wish them well and talk about their accolades and the qualities that make them a good student athlete. Why is that an important thing for this staff to do? That doesn't happen everywhere. If someone's leaving your program, some guys might say, to heck with them, but you guys are out there wishing them the best.
Because at the end of the day, I think that you have a bunch of guys that have, started at the bottom, so to speak, and grinded their way to where we are now. And when you do that, there's a lot of people that have given you hands up. And I'm certainly one of those. I played Division II football. I grew up in a town of 1,200 people in the middle of the desert of New Mexico. All intents and purposes, I shouldn't be here, doing what I'm doing. But I had a lot of people give me hands up, and the game of football has been so generous to me and my family, and that's why I got into coaching. Is because of what it did for me, and I feel like you owe that to the players. And yeah, we don't always see eye to eye in terms of, hey man, maybe this guy thinks he's better than he is, or maybe we whatever it is, we don't agree on the way we should do things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make you bad. At the end of the day, you do more by promoting people and helping them than you ever will be trying to knock them down. And I think when you have that approach in life, that's a winner's mentality. That's a winner's approach. And when you do that and you're about people, success is just a foregone conclusion. And I think that's one thing we've really tapped into.
So as a whole, the transfer portal and the transfer, policies and rules and regulations there within the NCAA as they are now, tricky stuff. The portal giveth and it taketh away. I mean, ASU, like a lot of schools, have lost some high caliber players over the recent years. But if you look at the roster of this college football playoff Big 12 champion team, and that's exactly what it is, and we're going to say those words as many times as humanly possible, it's all built from the transfer portal. So what are your views on the transfer portal and those transfer policies in the NCAA now?
Pros and cons. Just, I listen, I'm all for the players, making money and benefiting themselves. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I just, we're living this thing in real time, which is, foreign to everybody. And I just think that obviously as we go through these transgressions, we need some clear cut lines of objectives and policies that help us all see things with a little bit clearer glass. And we need some clear cut rules and regulations. And I think when we can do that, the sooner we can do that, the better off everybody's going to be. And that's not to inhibit any player from transferring or making money, but maybe a commitment of some sort. I think I saw Nick Saban tonight talk about coaches have in their contracts buyouts. If you leave, something that, because at the end of the day, guys, I'm a firm believer in winning equals consistency. I think that, and I understand the business of college athletics and, if you don't win, the turnover in this, but I think the proven method, if you look and you study places that have had long-term success, NFL or college, is they've stuck with their coaches. And there's been some consistency over time that has allowed for that success to occur. So I just think, when you talk about players coming and going, I think it would be a better product for the fans, the players, the coaches, everybody involved, if guys could stay and we could get to a point where people are staying for multiple years and building that chemistry and camaraderie and a model of consistency, and at the same time taking care of the players the way they should be taken care of.
Going back on the timeline a little bit, of course, you got the program goes through kind of an up and down in the 2023 season with some share of difficulties, but through the lessons of going through kind of the portal recruiting, the high school signing classes, what were some of the key lessons from that 2023 player acquisition situation that you were able to put forth towards this past off season?
Well, and I think I hit on it earlier. Find good people. Find guys that want to be here. We wanted guys. It wasn't about we weren't interested in finding guys that just wanted to get paid, right? Obviously, that's part of it, but we wanted guys that, you're gonna get some money. We understand that, but it has to be bigger than that. And I think when you express that, and I've sat in with many calls of Kitty heading up, and he's just very honest with them. Like, hey, this is what it is. We're not going to have a situation. You come here like, there's going to be other places you can probably go and, get more money, but he's always asking the questions about the character, the type of kids they are. Do you want to be here? And I think that's been the biggest thing in the talent acquisition of, we're obviously watching the film, looking for them to be able to play at a high level based on their position, of course. But then are those other tangible and intangible things there that we need them to have in order for us to be successful?
Now, in the wake of that 2023 season, after you guys, go through that 3-9 year, what were some of take stock of the roster at that point and look ahead? What were some of the key areas of the roster that you really identified as being a priority heading into 2024?
Well, obviously, I think you got to start with the quarterback position, right? We know we needed to go out and acquire another quarterback, one that could help us win at a high level. And then I think we needed to address getting bigger in the trenches on both sides of the football. I think, from there it was probably adding depth and, some speed to our linebacker position. So I think those were probably the things that popped out, right away in addressing those concerns so that we felt like we could go into, this season and have a chance.
Now, along with bringing in new players and adding to the talent level there, keeping guys on the roster is also a very crucial part of the modern day college football landscape. What's it like from a coach's perspective to, recruit your own roster, so to speak, and, what the relationship between the program and the collective to make sure that the important core guys are back for another year?
Well, and I think that starts again with what we're talking about, that authenticity, that genuineness that Kenny possesses, that relationship he has with the leadership council, and those guys really run our team, as you mentioned. And I think, having that relationship and doing those things over a long period of time, and then obviously winning certainly helps. I think all of those things combined allow you to continue to keep that continuity, and most guys here know they have a good situation and feel like, hey, we can come back and continue to build on what we've done this year.
So obviously, take us back to the origins of the Texas Tempe movement. Obviously, such a key component of the success of the program so far. And obviously, Texas is such a hotbed of talent. Historically, ASU has been perhaps more California based. But so why was it such a priority for the staff to and for the program to make Texas such a priority from the get go?
Well, I think that's some of the things where I talk about outside the box, if you will, like the foresight to understand that, hey, in a year we're probably going to the Big 12. You know what? Not to say we're not, because we are. We have the Cali Devils, and we recruit in California still at a high rate, but also knowing that we're going to play a lot of games in the state of Texas or in that geographical footprint, Oklahoma, Kansas, if you will, Big 12 territory. I think it made perfect sense when he said, hey, listen, we can plant a flag in the state of Texas, and we can get, whatever it is, 2 to 3 to 4 quality or more players a year that can help us win. And I think those are the things that, we were talking about from the time we got here that have come to fruition that are, a reason why we are where we are.
What impact has Isaiah Williams had on this roster's turnaround?
I mean, it's, I think it's been, I think it speaks for itself. I mean, I think the results, as you see at the end of the day, certainly you have to attribute some of that to his recruiting ability and helping us move this program forward, especially in Texas.
So fans always hear about players, going into the portal. They see the tweets and the screenshots and of the goodbye messages or the portal entry itself. But walk our listeners through the other side of that equation. What's the portal process like, and just interacting with the portal from a coach's perspective?
Ooh. It's tiring. You know what? It's never over. You know what I mean? It's constantly going. And I think that's the thing that, if you didn't have the staff of people that we do, that monitor that and are able to keep you abreast of the forever changing landscape in that portal, we'd be in trouble. And so, from our standpoint, it's a little bit better than it was a year ago. As you now can sign players, and you don't have to wait until they get on campus like they were a year ago. So, but it's still challenging, and it's something that you have to stay on top of 24/7, because if you don't, somebody else is.
So naturally, a lot of different kind of guys enter the portal, thousands each year. Some might be those 5-star recruits that didn't necessarily get the time they're looking for. Maybe somebody who's playing at a lower level school who's really, knocking it out of the park and wants to upgrade there. Athletically, what are you looking for when you guys look for players in the portal? I know you mentioned some of the culture things and the caliber of human beings, but what kind of things catch your eye when you're looking for scouting in the portal?
Well, I think you got to talk about first, what position are we looking at, right? I think that the tangible athletic qualities that we're speaking of vary in range based on the position that we're looking at. If it's D line, D tackle, we're looking for some guys that have size, that we can get bigger inside there, but still yet have some athleticism to execute what we want in the 4-down scheme of what Brian's trying to get done. If it's an edge, a guy that we still would like to get bigger there, but guys that have some length and some speed off that edge that can, rush the quarterback and create havoc. So I there's so many variables based on position. We could go through the whole gamut of positions, but I think every one of those positions is looked at, is evaluated, set down as a coaching staff, gone through with our recruiting staff, and then looking at those things and saying, are they tangible? Can they convert to the Big 12 and Arizona State, and can they help us win?
So in that evaluation process, how do you all figure out which areas you're going to address through high school recruiting, which areas you're going to address through the transfer portal?
It's a great question. I think, initially it's always about, hey, let's start from our base of high school kids, right? Like we're going to recruit a baseline and a foundation with the high school class. And then as we build that baseline and we sign those kids in December, the season's coming to an end. Where do we need immediate help to continue our upward trajectory? And with that being said, then we go and address those needs in the portal.
I believe it was last week, Coach Dillingham was on a local sports talk radio talking about how the narrative and the conversations for folks in the transfer portal is a lot different this year than it was in 2023, in 2022. That's got to be a fun thing. Tell us about that experience and how different ASU is being received by transfers now versus the last 2 years.
Oh boy, a lot better than it was 365 days ago. I can promise you that. Winning is the cure-all. Everybody wants to be associated with a winner, and it certainly makes our jobs and lives a lot easier when you win to go in and recruit, because you're on a platform now that is elite. The exposure is at a maximum, and you're able to get in the front door with certain kids that you might not have been able to get in with a year ago. Not might have. You absolutely would not have. But because we are relative, it at least gets you a conversation starter, and then we can go from there. But, just like anything else, you got to be in the game to win it, right? So, in order to get in the front door, to have a chance to recruit a kid, you got to be able to get in the front door. So it has certainly made our lives and jobs easier to get in that front door. Still a challenge to close kids out, as you're competing against the very best in the country.
So a couple of years ago, as we talked about, the roster really kind of needed an overhaul and infusion of talent. But now that you've gone through a few cycles, the talent level's risen. A trophy has now been added to the trophy case. You might have touched on it a little bit a moment ago, but what do you feel is kind of the best balance of portal versus high school signees in terms of the player acquisition? Looking ahead long term, to sustain this level of success.
I think it's a great question, and I don't know that there's a number or percentage that you put on it right now. I think that at the end of the day, you still want to build your roster. And I think I know Kenny believes this. We want to still have that base coming from the future, coming from, a developmental high school foundation of kids, and building your culture and building, long-term big picture, and then ultimately sprinkled in with, the handful of guys you need every year to continue to allow you to compete at a high level. And I think the easiest way for football fans to think about it, long-term football fans, is it's almost like the portal is old school junior college recruiting, right? You go, you build your high school roster, the numbers are different and they can move year to year. But the reality is that if you build your roster, and it's sustainable, and you build from within a low level, the foundation from high school kids. Okay, well, hey man, we got to go sign, 3 or 4 JUCO kids. We need a rush in, we need a lockdown corner, etc. It's very, I think, mentality wise, I think people can relate to that, old school football fans, if you will. And it just might be a little bit more in terms of numbers wise. I think a good program probably was signing 3 or 4 junior college kids, maybe 5 that, hey, they're going to come in and help fill a need. I think, the portal is probably 8 to 12 guys a year where you come in and they add depth or they add immediate impact players. And I think if you're doing that, you're still keeping the consistency, the camaraderie of your team and the culture intact. And then these guys, like I mentioned earlier, are acclimating to that. And but at the same time, giving you immediate talent to give you a chance to continue your upward trajectory.
So how would you compare the scouting, evaluation, recruitment processes for high school players compared to transfer portal players? For the high school guys, you have 2, 3, 4 years to evaluate and build relationships with them. For these portal guys, you might just have a few days to figure it out. How do you compare those?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think that's where I told you earlier. I think some of that has to be a little bit of luck involved too, because 3, 4, 5, 6 days, whatever it is, that's extremely hard to get a real evaluation of somebody, and you got to go into hyperdrive, if you will, and everybody has to tap into their resources and really get into your contacts, and not just contacts, but contacts that you trust and believe in, that can give you, bona fide answers to who this person is that we are recruiting, and then making a decision. And it's not easy for sure, but it is the times that we live in.
I know you and the rest of the staff had, confidence in the vision that, ASU ultimately would be successful. But did you think the turnaround would happen this fast?
You know what? If I've been asked a question, I wish I had $1 for that question every time, 'cause I'd go retire. No. I mean, like, you're absolutely right. We believed in the process of what we were going to build here and what we're continuing to build here. But there's nobody in our building that thought we would be sitting here, at 11-2, getting ready for, a quarterfinal game in the playoffs at the beginning of the season. I think as it progressed, I think we all knew that we had a chance to win and be successful this season. I don't think there's not a single person in our building that didn't feel that way. But to be sitting here at 11-2 is nobody believed that, but we'll certainly take it, and certainly proud of where we're at right now.
So how are you and the staff kind of approaching this off season, the shopping list, so to speak, and how you're going to, build and enhance this roster, knowing that much of this core is set to return?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing. And I think that, when you look at our roster, minimal guys have gotten into the portal because they know what we're building. And then it's, like we talked about, sprinkling in just a little bit of guys that we feel that can take us, above and beyond where we're at right now. But I think, bringing back the overwhelming majority of the kids we have continues to convey that model of consistency and family and togetherness that we're trying to preach and build upon. And so, that's obviously, we're trying to do that right now, and then continue to streamline our focus on the winner of Clemson and Texas here in a few days.
So the work in the transfer portal is already going down. If we need to talk about it in general terms, perfectly okay there. As special teams coordinator, why is it important to focus on special teams in the transfer portal here?
Well, obviously we needed to go out and get a kicker. That's not a secret. My 12-year-old, or now he's 13, definitely was on my head about we got to go do that. And so we did sign, obviously, just a few days ago, Jesus Gomez, what we believe was one of the elite kickers in the transfer portal at Eastern Michigan. And, that was something that we did a deep dive on all the guys that were in the portal, and did an extensive research and film study on those guys that were in the portal, and then decided like this was a young man that we thought could come in and really help us and execute at a high level. And, we brought him in here this past weekend, and obviously had a successful visit, and we're super excited about him joining us in January and elevating our kicking game. We feel good about where we're at, and the year that Kenyon Floyd had as a true freshman, and really think that I really believe Kenyon Floyd is going to be something special here. I think when he's all said and done in a few years, he'll be one that is talked about for a long time around here when you talk about elite specialists. And then adding Jesus, I think, is the icing on the cake, and is really going to continue to elevate where we're going in that department.
So is it a little interesting, or maybe a little funny that, as some have pointed out, that his performance a few years ago for Eastern Michigan, maybe even the first domino that ultimately kind of, maybe the butterfly effect led you and the rest of the staff here and to have the success that you're having right now?
Yeah, I told him that. I was like, hey, man, like, you realize, like, you started this whole thing. We were at dinner, and I was like, this is kind of your fault. And he was like, I never really looked at it like that. And I was like, you kicked those field goals. You guys won. They obviously made a coaching change after that game, and Kenny and I were on the phone talking about the potential of coming here to ASU a couple of days later. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how life works, and to come full circle with him coming back here, and those were his first field goals that he ever kicked in his career.
Yeah.
So I think that's that's pretty cool, and it's going to make for a great story, especially next fall.
So as we wind down here, obviously, you guys are busy and preparing for the Peach Bowl and, a college football playoff quarterfinal game. But also, of course, the portal window's right now. And, as you mentioned, a couple players added. How challenging is it to kind of juggle everything going on right now?
not to mention the holidays and Christmas coming up, and trying to be a dad and a husband. And yeah, it's a lot. There's no doubt about it. But it's awesome. Like, you wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Like, what an amazing time to be an Arizona State Sun Devil, and it's just, to hear you say those words, the Peach Bowl, man, we're going to the freaking Peach Bowl. Are you kidding me? Like, as a kid, growing up, you look at those games and the Peach Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, right? Sugar Bowl, like all the, like, those are like, man, it's a big time. And to be doing it in year 2 at Arizona State, just what a special time for us as a staff, as a team, and couldn't be more excited about the opportunity. But we're not just excited to be here. Like, this is a unique group, and we're going to win the football game. Make no bones about that.
So, last question before we get you out of here. We've been talking a lot about the future, a little bit about the past, but this season, brother, this season is not over yet. How ready is this team, including the staff, including yourself? How ready is everybody to hit that field New Year's Day in Atlanta?
Yeah, it's awesome, right? Like, you just think about it, you talk about it, and the buildup. It's still, a little bit of a ways away. And we had our first practice on Monday, come back, give the players some time off. It was a little sloppy as expected, and we'll build into it. But the effort is there. You know what I mean? And these guys, the closer we get, the details when we find out who we're playing and being able to dial in, like, that's the one thing I know about these guys after 13 games. These dudes are going to show up and play. And this is about us. This is about us playing and being our very best and living in the moment. And I think that this group has done that better probably than any team I've ever been around. And so to have that opportunity on New Year's Day is, it's something that you'll tell your kids about, 20 years from now. It's something they write books about. It's elite. And I'm just very blessed to be a part of it. And I can't wait for it to happen.
Well, Charlie, always great talking to you, and we definitely appreciate your expertise and insight, and talking about this remarkable turnaround that this program has undergone over this past year. That's really kind of activated the Valley to full force. Thank you so much, and I'll see you down there in Atlanta.
Yeah, look forward to it. Appreciate you guys as always. Go Devils.
So now when you talk about activating the Valley, that means a lot of things, and that's felt in a lot of different ways in the Sun Devil community. And one of the foremost about that is a business owner that supports Sun Devil athletics, such as our incredible friend, incredible longtime sponsor, our good buddy, Troy Scoma from Cactus Sports. So we're happy to welcome back to the show to talk about what this incredible season has been like for him and his business. Now, if y'all want to learn the history of Cactus Sports, I strongly encourage you to go back to the On Location show that we did. It was August 3rd or 4th. If you look in our archives, you can learn all about that. For now, we're going to be talking about this season and how it's impacted his business. Troy, you have been running around the clock. We are lucky and grateful to have you, my friend.
I appreciate being here. And yes, I have been running around the clock, pulling 16, 17-hour days.
So just let's start. What have these past few months been like for you? When we were in your store in early August, we were talking about, the ups and downs that the successes and lack thereof by, Sun Devil Athletics can have on a business like yours. And obviously a lot of that was talking about some dry times on the football field and the impact that's had. Things are a lot different now. ASU is a college football playoff team. What have these last few months been like for you?
So I really wouldn't say the last few months. Like we went through the football season, and when we were 5-1 and 6-2 and 7-2, I would talk to my wife and say, everybody wanted a winner. Everybody wanted a winner. Like, where is everyone? Yes, we would have a busy weekend for, obviously a home game. We were really busy. And even some road games, we'd see a lot of traffic online. But then during the week, it was still crickets. And I would just look at her and say, I just don't understand. Like, we just had back-to-back 3-win seasons. So we're finally winning. When are people going to show up, like, during the week? When is the Valley going to get activated? And then it all changed after beating Kansas State. And I was actually in Manhattan for that game. And I remember being at a bar and watching BYU have their special teams gaff where the guy got hit in the back of the head on a kick or a punt or something. And then they ended up losing to Kansas. And then all of a sudden, we control our own destiny. If we keep winning, we should go to the Big 12 championship. And I want to say we noticed a huge surge on, I want to say November 20th. It was the Wednesday before the BYU game. I think that's kind of when all the people started hopping on the bandwagon and there started becoming a buzz in the valley. That's when we noticed a difference. And then obviously we won the game, and then it's like, holy cow, we really control our own destiny. Beat Puave, and then we're golden. We're going to the Big 12 conference championship. I know there was that 67 to 1% chance that 5 teams could win, and then Houston could beat BYU, and then we wouldn't make it. But I mean, we all knew that wasn't going to happen. So that was really, for me, that day, November 20th, that Wednesday, was the catalyst where we were like, okay, everybody's finally really kind of bought in.
So we're talking really less than a month right now as we record. And I'm sure it's felt a heck of a lot longer than a month for you. So what has that month been like business-wise? Just give our listeners and viewers a little insight to, what the success on the football field at such a high level for ASU translates to for a business owner like yourself.
So I hardly ever have to go in on a Sunday, and my wife sure as hell doesn't have to go in on a Sunday, nor does she want to. But usually after a home game, because I don't have a manager right now, my wife and I are acting managers. It's really important for me to show up at the store in the morning before they open. I do a walkthrough with my manager on duty, and I basically say, here's all the things that we need to do to pick up the pieces and put the store back together and make it look flawless, because that's what we really pride ourselves with. We make our store look flawless all the time. And so that Sunday after the BYU game, no, it was actually, I'm sorry, the Sunday after the rivalry game down in Tucson, we had to go in for 4 hours each. My wife had to go into the office and deal with all the back end online stuff, and I had to go in and meet with my MOD to try and put the store together from the sales floor perspective. And ironically, after a couple of hours of being there, I was fixing something on a rack and my head was down, and somebody walks in and they go, "Hey, I know you." And it was Scataboo. And I'm like, "Hey man," I'm like, "How are you doing? And like, how are you feeling?" And he said, "Surprisingly, I feel really good." And I just looked at him and I said, "Cam, your signed merchandise is flying out the door, and I'm probably going to need to arrange to pay you to come and do another appearance." And then I told them, "Your burrito shirt," I think we brought in Iron Devils around maybe late April, early May. Iron Devils are hands down our number one seller. And I go, "Cam, your shirt I just pulled a top sellers report, and your shirt, which hasn't even been in my store a month, is number 2 below the black Iron Devils shirt." And I said, "I'm going to let some dust settle. In the next day or two, I'm going to cut you your royalty check." And so then him and his buddies kept shopping, and then he came up to me and he said, "Hey, let me give you my number so we can start arranging for me to come in and we'll make this happen." And then what was funny is and I hope I'm not in trouble for disclosing this, but he walks over to me by the register and he leans in and he goes, "When we win the Big 12 championship game," and I start knocking on wood because I'm superstitious, he goes, "I'm going to have a lot of extra time on my hands because the game's going to be several weeks away. So maybe that'll be a good time for me to come in and do an appearance." So We've been in talks. We have a contract that's not signed because we're narrowing down the date right now. But yeah, that's kind of after the pounding that we put on the kiddies. That's when our lives changed, where we're like, wow, like things are a lot different. And then I want to say, leading up to the conference championship game, that's when things were like, okay, normally a busy day, we're getting X amount of orders. Now we're getting about 3 to 4 times that a day. And then the conference championship game day happened. And then ever since then, we're buried, man. It's like they turned on the fire hose and we're trying to drink from it.
So, as our listeners and viewers certainly know by now, Cactus Sports been around for more than 30 years, an absolute staple of the Sun Devil community and Tempe, Arizona as a whole. So in that time, you've experienced some similarly successful seasons like 1996 or those Todd Graham years, that reached a high level as well. How does this year for ASU football compare to other years that you've had with the store where the Sun Devils were highly successful on the field?
There's no comparison. There's none. Obviously, the back-to-back 10-win seasons under Graham in 13-14 were fantastic. I mean, probably my best overall gross sales for the whole year were those years. And then that carried forward to 2015 and having Burko, and we were supposed to be able to compete for the 4-team playoff. Obviously didn't go that way. We had the lightning in the bottle guard U holiday season. That was amazing. I was on Sun Devil Spaces last week and Kyle Dodd chimed in and said, hey, I remember talking to you in the store when guard U was happening. He said, is this like guard U times 5? And I said, no, this is like guard U times 50 or 100. I have just like guard U times. I have literally shown up at FedEx after calling them, telling them take boxes off trucks because I don't want to wait until whatever time he decides to show up. I want to get the boxes and control how soon I can get this stuff out on the shelves. Now it's like every day we're getting the most insane amount of orders that we can't even handle. We're getting, when you finally get to the end of the night and you clear some space so you can see more parts of the stockroom floor, you feel good about yourself. You come in the next day and then all of a sudden a UPS truck will pull up and say, hey, I've got 36 boxes. And then a FedEx truck will pull up and say, oh, well, I've got another 24 boxes. And then it's just like a punch in the gut. For the first time ever, we will literally open the back of our stockroom door and we will have boxes piled outside of our little patio because we can't fit boxes in the stockroom to be able to move. I wish you guys, and Joe, I'll probably send you a video. I think it was from like last Wednesday or Thursday of what our stockroom looks like. I have room for 2 people in the office. And what we do is when an order, let's say we get there in the morning and let's say we have 37 orders waiting for us because we stopped printing orders when we closed at 8:00. And so from the time we close until we get there at 9:00 in the morning, we have to print off 37 orders. Then we have to take those 37 orders and we have to pull those items off the floor because at one point 2 days ago, we were 5 days behind packing orders. And if we're a couple days behind, we can't risk your merchandise that you just ordered selling out. So we have boxes of pulled merchandise everywhere where those 2 people in the office can't even move. Since then, I have bought a printer and brought a laptop in so people can actually pack and print orders from the stockroom table. I've bought 2 printers to go underneath both of my registers so people can print and stock and ship orders and pack orders from those stations. We had to shorten our store hours so we can actually get things done in the morning when customers aren't there. And then we close 2 hours early so we can work for 2.5 hours at night and get stuff done then. And then we started assembling night crews to work from about 5 to 9 or 10. We started them yesterday, and we plan on having night crews to go through each week. So even though Sunday we were behind 5 days in shipping online orders, we caught up in one day. We caught up by about 2 or 3 days. So, I mean, every day you're learning something new. And Joe, I've been in this business. I started working for my dad in 1983 when he started his baseball card store. We went through Cubs going to the playoffs in 84, Bears going to a Super Bowl, which launched my dad into opening up to 9 or 10 retail stores. I went through Cubs going to the playoffs in 88. I went through 6 Chicago Bulls championships. I went through the 96 Rose Bowl, but every single one of those hot market events, there was no World Wide Web. Now we've got the fire hose just blasting us every single day while we're trying to just handle things on the sales floor. And let's not even get started with the amount of phone calls we're getting, the amount of emails that we're getting. I've got those 3 people who should be home chilling on holiday break, enjoying time with their family, helping us answer customer emails, any kind of back end stuff with our website, any kind of back end stuff that we need to deal with for our point of sale system. It's just stuff that we don't have time to do. It's amazing times. I mean, it's very overwhelming and it's stressful and it's fun, but it's nothing like I've ever seen in my entire life. And the orders will not stop coming. And you can't get mad about it because you're like, dude, like you just said, it's been less than a month where maybe 6 weeks ago we're complaining like, where are the Sun Devils? Like, Kenny said he was going to bring a winner. We finally have a winner. So no, like, bring the fire hose, man. Bring it. I want these orders. We're building up our marketing list. I can't tell you how many people are like, I've lived in the Valley my whole life and I've never even heard of your store. It's like, how we've been here 32 years. How have you never heard of us? So I don't know. It's great. It's challenging. It's great. It's draining. It's exciting, but we're hoping that we're having a better selection than all of these other competitors. And we're trying to keep people happy and give them things that they can't get and build even more customers for life and build our customer marketing base. And sorry, I'm talking so much.
That's what we got you here for, man, just to do that.
Yeah.
That's certainly what an activated Valley looks like. And, part of, riding this momentum is capturing those kind of lightning in the bottle moments. And you guys just dropped a Twist the Knife shirt earlier today. Really cool thing. Obviously, Kenny made that phrase popular just recently. So what is it like? What's the process like? And of course, you mentioned Guard U. Just if those moments, what's the process like for you of, taking such a moment that or a phrase or something that really pops and then turning that into a merchandise that Sun Devils can get from you?
Well, that's a combo of me being an owner and a fan. So an owner, like, yes, I want to make something cool and hopefully capture lightning in a bottle and sell it because I think other fans like you guys will think it's cool and you'll want it. But then also as a fan, like, who wouldn't want that? Like his halftime speech, me being an older guy and at times there's certain technology I'm not the most savvy with. I looked at 2 of my staff and I said, if either one of you guys can turn that into a ringtone for me, his halftime speech or part of it, and make that a ringtone for my phone, I'm like, I will gladly pay you on the clock to make that happen for me. I had one of my staff was so adamant about you cannot put a peach emoji on a shirt because do you not know what a peach emoji is? And I'm sorry to say I didn't know what it was, fella. But she was just saying it's not right. And I'm like, but it's a peach. and we're in the Peach Bowl, and we're going to put a knife through it. And, my wife had to soften it up. She's like, okay, no blood coming out of the peach. First there was blood. First, my Photoshop guy literally stuck it directly up the peach from down below center up. I'm like, no, we can't have that. So that was pretty funny. But in regards to being able to create other things, they'll show me graphics. These companies, like there's a local printer that prints downtown for Retroband. And they'll show me, hey, here's some different Peach Bowl options. What do you think? And, the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium is really cool. But when I showed that to some of my Son of a Friend text groups, they're like, the stadium looks like it's origami. So I said, okay, let's scrap that. And then they showed me something that all these companies, they keep submitting the designs, and they all have the gold helmet with a pitchfork on it. And I keep telling them, stop sending me the gold fork helmet with a pitchfork. Like, no one wants to see that. They want Sparky. They want Sparky face. He's our mascot. He's our guy. He is the Valley. And so I make them change it to Sparky. And then, I don't know if you guys are Seinfeld fans.
Yeah.
I remember Elaine being put in charge of the J. Peterman catalog. And I remember her sitting at the desk with her feet up, and she had a big stogie, and she's like, she's on a phone call, and she's like, he's a peach, I tell you, he's a peach. And so that was my
And she's got the cigar in the mouth. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a peach. Yeah, the urban sombrero
Right.
was somewhere. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. The urban sombrero. I like that, Joe. And so that gave me the idea to have the Peach Bowl shirt, but then Sparky, and I changed the saying to say, that Sparky's a real peach. And that was off the Elaine urban sombrero idea. So it is cool. It's cool to come up with all this stuff. And, I got interviewed by, I believe it was Good Morning Arizona, and then also Fox. And Good Morning Arizona had me on in the morning. They did a 5-minute spot followed by a 3.5-minute spot. Like, how great is that? And then Fox News had me on at night, and we talked about how there were ideas in the works to come out with back in, if you remember in 2009, when we went down to University of Georgia, they had shirts that said the Devils went down to Georgia. And so I remember back then, I actually didn't capitalize and carry that shirt, but I said, we're sure as hell going to do it now. And so as soon as TV heard that in the Valley, now the fire hose got even bigger. And so we can't stop getting orders for the Devils went down to Georgia shirts. And the shirt that I haven't put online yet, I think it's going online tomorrow. It's a real, what's been really popular for this younger generation and guys our age is these big, heavyweight, 6-ounce garment dyed tees. And people have been putting these big, huge 1990s graphics on them, right?
Yeah.
So I made a Devils went down to Georgia graphic with Sparky on the front. And then the back is going to have the full schedule with all the scores.
Nice.
And I got it coming in gold, and I got it coming in maroon. And I show people in the store, and they're just like, oh, dude, like, take my money now. Let me know when this is going to be in. So I mentioned to you earlier, like, we're learning day by day. Maybe you guys learned in college, like the 80-20 business rule, where 80% of your success comes from 20% of your effort. So we're trying, my brother went through Super Bowls with his stores in Seattle, and that was his advice to me. Stop ordering so many SKUs, dial it down, find a bunch of SKUs that work, and order them like crazy. So like that shirt that I just described to you, I think I've got something like 300 or 350 units of each coming in. The locker room shirt that they passed out on the field where Cam had his belt over his shoulder, those shirts are money. As soon as they hit the TV, everybody wants them. So I'm going heavy on that. The maroon shirt, I've got like 350 units coming in. I've got another 288 in gold. I've got another three. Joe, you love black shirts.
Got to. Yes,
So
sir.
I've got a black version of that coming in because there's people like you that like wearing black.
I'm a
So-
heavy sweater. This is like me being vulnerable. I
Right.
sweat from my pits, so that's I'm wearing a black shirt
Yep.
right now in Arizona. You know, you gotta get the mind rolling and be smart about it, right? Exactly.
So that kind of leads perfectly into the next question. So how much of this surge of this wave that you're riding is Big 12 champion or Peach Bowl merch?
That's another thing I learned. So I kind of mixed in some college football playoff type stuff, and people are gravitating more to Big 12 champs because that's iconic and eternal. No one can ever take that away from us, right? And then people are really interested in Peach Bowl stuff. So right now, I would say it's probably like 50% Big 12 champs, maybe 35%, and then maybe 15% college football playoffs gear. But then also the regular ASU non-champs and CFP stuff is flying out the door also. So it's really like the Valley is truly activated. Like people are buying everything and anything they can get their hands on.
Yeah, because that's interesting. Because I know that folks are pretty superstitious, and I fall in that category. I remember seeing online folks that were like, "I don't know if I want to buy the Big 12 championship game participant merchandise. I want to get the championship merchandise. I don't want to jinx it by because we are a superstitious bunch here in this Sun Devil community." So, question I certainly want to go over with you, and we've talked about it offline. Obviously this surge of business, the fire hose that is running nonstop now. Is a wonderful thing in itself, but can create some chaos, some complications. I'm sure that creates a lot of challenges for you and your staff as far as customer satisfaction, fulfillment, all of that stuff. So tell us what you'd like to outline there as far as just kind of how this process has been in trying to keep customers happy.
So I think a lot of people are confused at how the whole process works. So before leading up to, hey, you might have a shot at getting into the Big 12 championship. And if you win that game, you also might have a shot at getting chosen for the playoff, but nothing's a guarantee. So they come to you like 2 weeks before that and they say, here are our deadlines to get your orders in. And you've got to do all this work and you have no idea what you're doing. You're like, well, if we make the Big 12 championship game, I like this design, this design, this design. And how many colors of that design do you want to bring in? And then how many units? And you're just like guessing. You're like, well, I guess I'll take 72 of this. And the locker room tee is really popular. So I'll take 144 of that and 144 of the locker room hat. And then they send you web images so you can put it up online. So as soon as the game's over, people can order it. And I think people are confused that it's sitting in your store and they can just come and get it. Or, hey, maybe in a couple days I can come and get it. And that's not how it works. But if we don't put it up online, then you guys can't order it. And people go, yeah, but it's in stock. Well, yeah, it's in stock because if we don't put inventory in the system, then you won't be able to order it. So before I continue that, I do want to go back to the locker room hat and the locker room shirt. I think I had 144 of maroon shirts coming in, 144 of the hats. And I was in Dallas. I was at Texas Live before and after the game. And just seeing Cam win the MVP of the game and put the belt on his shoulder, coupled with the vibe that you saw at Texas Live and how many Sun Devils were there and how euphoric everyone was acting even before the game. And then the ass whipping that we put on them. And then Cam putting the belt on his shoulder. And then going back to Texas Live and seeing just the happiness and everyone's brains were scrambled. And I don't think I'm sure you guys feel the same way. I don't even know if I realized like what the hell just happened, like, and how good this team is. And I remember I got invited to hang out with a group that had like a little like bottle service area, and they're all getting drunk, and I'm trying to keep my wits about myself because I'm thinking business. I was supposed to fly home that night at 6:30, and I got peer pressured. I was lucky enough to get invited to the suite where the Dallas Fort Worth Alumni Association was.
Nice.
And I got peer pressured in the suite to change my flight, change it to the morning, hang out and party with everyone. Because in 96, I didn't get to go to the Rose Bowl. My store was on its year. I was like 28 there to support the store. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stay here and enjoy the party. But back to the bottle service area and the bar we were at in the Dallas Live area. I literally said to myself, I need to be responsible right now, and I need to go out on that cold, rainy patio, and I need to get a hold of my wife, and I got to have her get this stuff online now. I'm not going to wait till the morning so you all can start ordering it. And so she did that. Then I started putting it on social media that, hey, it's live. Here's the links. And then I called my sales rep and I said, I want you to triple my order because I saw how things were. So anyway, back to people having a hard time grasping how the whole process works. I had a phone call a couple of days ago, and we're so slammed that basically we got to a point I had to huddle with my staff and say, if you cannot answer a call right away with the answer and get that person off the phone so you can go back to being productive and doing your job, I want you to tell that person we are slammed, we're understaffed, I have a store full of people, and I need you to email info@cactussports.com. And there's a lot of people that take yes as an answer and they're super understanding, but there's a few people who do not. And so that's, if I see a staff member struggling with that because they're younger, I grab the phone from them and I say, excuse me, I'm their boss. Will you please just email us? We are too busy. We'll try and get back to you in the next 24 hours. And this guy says, well, I already emailed you. And I said, sir, when did you email us? And he said, last night. And it was like 10:30 in the morning. And I just went, sir, I said, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on right now. I said, we got 55 boxes yesterday. The day before that, we got 40. The day before that, we got 25. And I said, I'm looking at a 5-inch high stack of online orders that I'm trying to fill. If you would please be so kind to email me, what's your name? I'll get back to you before we close tonight. And so those are the frustrating, challenging times that we go through. And sometimes it's like a gut punch because you're trying to be positive. You're handling all this stuff that you've never experienced before. And dude, I'm a glass half full guy. Like, I'm a Sun Devil fan. I've been a Sun Devil fan since my brother transferred to ASU in '86. And so from a fan perspective, like, man, I am all hopped up on Mountain Dew, out drinking Mountain Dew every single day. I love my job. But man, when you get those difficult calls or you get somebody who comes in who just isn't being compassionate towards me, my staff, it's hard, man. And like, they don't understand. I'm waking up at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning just so I can actually get work done. And then I show up and go into the store at 10 or 11, then I'm not getting home until 7 or 8 at night. They don't see that. They just see, well, I just want my stuff. It's online. So that's part of the reason I wanted to come on your show, is to try and educate people. Like, yeah, you can order it, because if I don't put the quantities in, you're not going to be able to order it, but we'll get you your stuff. You just got to give us some patience, man. You know?
So when you've had great seasons before, like 96 and, the couple 10-win years before. So kind of maybe with that historical precedent and knowledge, how much momentum do you think this magical run in 2024 might carry forward, into the future, into 2025?
I'd like to think that, we have been begging ever since the 96 Rose Bowl. We have been begging for this sleeping giant to be awoken. We have been starved for it. And what we're seeing right now, I think this is it. I think the giant has been awoken. I think Kenny, I think that's what he wanted, man. That's what I wanted when he got hired and he said that. I mean, we were all ready to jump through a brick wall for him. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Cam Scattaboo was being interviewed, and he described Kenny as a juice ball. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, that's me, man. I am a juice ball. Like I'm that guy who comes in every Monday morning and I'm jacked as a Monday because it's a new week. But to answer your question, I really hope and think that this is going to carry that momentum through to next season. I mean, think of all the stuff that this is going to do for our program, like the amount of people that will now start to give to the collective, all the extra NIL deals that these companies and players will hopefully start to, hey, I mean, we're working on that idea for Mill Avenue right now. So Mill Avenue, we have a high tenant turnover problem. And that was one thing I noticed back in October. And I got a hold of the people from our area is called the DTA, the Downtown Tempe Authority. I got a hold of them. I got a hold of Peter of Activate ASU.org. I got a hold of two people at the Sun Angel Collective. I got a hold of Julian, who owns Pedal House in Devil's Hideaway. And I got a hold of all of us to meet in our store. And I said, look, we have a foot traffic problem because we have a lot of landlords that are short-sighted and they like to charge all this high rent, but they don't understand if you charge a reasonable rent, then maybe you give businesses a better chance to succeed and stay longer and have more longevity. So I said, we need to take it upon ourselves to have every single bar and restaurant on Mill Avenue. Why are you not like Cold Beers and Cheeseburgers and Angel at Burrito Express, my homie over there? Why does every barn restaurant not have a food menu item on their menu where you don't have to pony up 5-10 grand or $2,000 and give it to an athlete for an NIL deal? You create a food menu item, you build in a $5 price that goes to that athlete, and you don't think those athletes have friends that all have Instagram accounts and all have 3, 4, 5,000 followers? And then Peter and I forget the guy's name it's Brittany's right-hand man at the Sun Angel Collective. They were said, you guys can even think outside of the box. And how about you create a food menu item that goes to an entire team, like the Spirit Squad? Do you think they're getting NIL money? Of course they're not. How about the women's golf team? How about our amazing women's volleyball team? All these bars and restaurants need to think outside the box, and we need to activate the Valley and continue this momentum. And can you imagine how many friends and Instagram followers and Twitter followers that the Sun Devil Spirit Squad has? My goodness, man. Like, let's all keep getting this momentum going, and let's get some foot traffic down to Mill Avenue to bring it back to the great downtown Tempe area that it once was when Joe, you were in school. Brad, did you go to ASU?
Yeah, class of 04.
There you go, baby. So you know what it was like.
Yeah. So last one for you. So, back in August when we're doing a live show in your store, middle of the recording, Graham Rossini walks in with his son. So ultimately, obviously this is, some great problems to have in terms of just, having this magical season and the Valley being activated. Just, how special and how nice is it for a business owner to have, Kenny Dillingham, ASU alum, Graham Rossini, ASU alum, just kind of some key people in that leadership capacity, helping to activate the Valley and rallying local businesses.
They get it. I mean, we talked about it, Joe. We said, if I remember right, we said it is not just lip service. Like, you get the feeling that they're actually going to listen. And we said that back on August 3rd, I believe it was. And man, has Graham delivered, right? He's listening to all the boosters and the alumni and other people, and he's taking that advice and he is implementing it. I mean, the saying that he put back above the heads of the student section, what is it? It's the saying that Graham came up with.
I know they have the abandon all hope one that they returned. Yep.
Exactly. I mean, that's a great example. Changing tailgating to be able to tailgate 5 hours ahead of time, early, the August 31st game and the early September games. Hey, we're doing 50% off of water. We're reducing parking in half. They just get it, man. You know, he listens. He's dropped in my store multiple times. He popped into the suite at the Big 12 championship game, and I thanked him again. And he's like, I'm so happy for you. Enjoy the ride. And man, I mean, ever since him thanking me, like, my life is not the same anymore. You work your ass off your entire life hoping and wishing that this moment will happen. And it's life-changing, man. Those 2 years that we went through of back-to-back 3-win seasons, I honestly thought it was going to take 5 years to dig myself out of that hole. And we dug ourselves out of that hole in 2 weeks, my friends. 2 weeks.
Well,
I don't know how that just happened.
That was a perfect celebration.
Perfect celebration. Gary, thank you.
and here's the thing, my man, is it could get even better.
Oh, I know. My wife and I said, could you imagine if we win this and go to the Cotton Bowl? And my wife says, no, I don't even want to think about that. Like, let's just live in the moment day by day, because we're getting crushed right now. I'm trying to have a really good attitude about it. I've had to learn I can't do these wake up at 3:30, 4:30 in the mornings every day. When I came home Saturday, my wife doesn't like me using this, but I call it Cactus Sports Armageddon. And she's like, well, that's when like the world blows up. I'm like, well, that's what it felt like Saturday. We were busier than any home game we've had this year. I came home that night and she came home with me and she said, I was just starting to get a cold. I think it was on my second day. And she said, you have got to get some sleep. You cannot get up at 3:30 or 4:30 in the morning. You got to take care of yourself. You're going to burn yourself out and you're going to be useless to the store. And we need you here every day. Man, I went to bed, I think at 10:15, and I got like 9 hours or 9.5 hours of sleep. It was glorious. I could have easily slept 3 more hours. I've just learned now that, yeah, I can get up at 3:30 and 4:30 several days a week, but I got to have at least 2 good nights of, at least 8 hours or 7 hours, because I'm not Superman. You think that you are, your machismo kicks in. You're like, the store needs me. I can handle this. But man, eventually your body's going to shut down. So I have turned the corner past that cold. Just like an athlete does. I'm trying to take care of my body. I'm trying to get good rest and pop a lot of emergency and Sudafed and just take care of myself, because we got to be prepared, man. We could make it. I think we can play with anyone, the way that this team is, they are gelling at the right time. And if I was any team, I would be scared as hell to play the Sun Devils right now.
Well, Troy, we hope that you can get some rest, but we also hope that maybe that's a couple football games away and the Devils can run the table and make this magical season even more magical. But we truly appreciate you joining us. Obviously, we of course immensely appreciate the support that you've given us throughout the years, and we encourage folks. We don't need to tell folks, I think, to shop at Cactus Sports because everybody's doing it. But for those who aren't, of course, get on over to cactussports.com or check out the store location at 514 South Mill Avenue. I'm at that spot. I got everything memorized now. I've been reciting
I
that
know.
for a while.
You had no paper in front of you.
Not at all. No cheat sheet here, my man. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and it's great to get a look behind the curtain and a day in the life, a week, month in the life of what goes on when a college football team goes on a legendary run like ASU's gone on this season, and how that impacts the Valley. So get some rest, my friend, and we will certainly catch up very soon.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate you having me on.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank our illustrious guests, Charlie Ragle, Keith Abney, CJ Fite, and Troy Scoma. Now, of course, there's a lot going on this time of year, so you definitely want to stay with us on the social media side. Follow the show on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils. Follow us on on YouTube. You want to subscribe there. Follow us on Facebook, and give me a follow on all things social. BDenny29.
And you can follow me at Joe Healy 42. Before we get out of here, we certainly want to issue a huge thank you, shout out to our awesome sponsors, Jones Auto Group, DevilsDigest.com, Burrito Express, Cactus Sports. You heard from Troy. Keep them busy. You know what? Like, he'll sleep after the new year, right? Love Troy. Keep him busy. Spaghetti Shack, Sun Devil Family Charities as well. Huge thank you to all who help support Speak of the Devils.
Keep all of them busy for right now and all in through 2025 as well. And also, keep our reviews busy. Give us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. That'd be greatly appreciated. Now, Joe and I will be back next week as we will finally know who ASU's facing in Atlanta.